Okay, we'll continue with this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a switch and put it here, and I will connect the Linksys router to the switch using a cable. We'll use a straight through cable, use Ethernet 1, connect to this interface. The first interface is fine. Now I'll attach two PCs. So we want to assign these two PCs an IP address using DHCP. So let me connect first using cables. So PC to a switch, so we'll use a straight through cable. Let's pick up this port, and now from here to here let's pick up this port. Alright, so all of them are in a single VLAN now. So now to get a DHCP IP address, we also know that we need a router, right? Let's try without router, but I don't think so you could try get it without a router. Okay, you could get without a router. So the host because this itself is a router, right? Okay, I'm sorry. So Linksys router itself is a router. Okay, good. So the Linksys router is a DHCP server, so the PC will contact the router, which is the Linksys router, but it is also the DHCP server, so it can reroute the IP address. So we got 2.102 for this wired computer, and let's try for the other one. It's going to be 2.103. So they could all communicate now. You could check by, let's run a ping command, 192.168.2.100. okay, so this is communicating with this guy, right? So let's try from here to 102, right? Okay, so this has what? 192.168.2.102. This has 192.168.2.101. This has 192.168.2.100, and this has 192.168.2.103. Alright. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to set up another wired network here, connect to a router, and then make that network to be able to communicate to this network, right? So let me start with the switch. So this you should have seen before too. So let's connect a PC. We'll do another PC, and I'm going to connect them through a straight through cable. And let me connect through this. Alright, and we'll give them a static IP address, 192.168.3.10, and we will configure them. I'm just giving the labels now. Okay, so we are going to use a gateway router, and I'm going to connect the switch to the router using a straight through cable. Let's use a 0/3 interface here, connect to the 0/0 interface of the router, So I'm going to configure this interface IP address to correspond to this network. So the router gets always the first available IP address, so it will be 192.168.3.1. So let me double click on the router, go to this command line interface, enter no, then enable to get into the privileged mode, then config T, and then you want to get into the interface 0/0. This is the short form. You can get into like this. Now I want to set the IP address to 192.168.3.1, and this is going to be my subnet mask. Then I will activate that interface by running no shutdown. So that interface is activated. Okay, so you can even test within these guys whether you are able to communicate. First we have to set the IP address, right? So 192.168.3.10, and then the default gateway is 3.1. And for these guys it's going to be 192.168.3.11, and this is the default gateway, right? So let's do some ping. So ping 192.168.3.11 should be able to communicate as well as with the gateway server, right? Okay, so now we need to connect this router to this switch so that it can connect to communicate with this part of the network. So let's use a straight through cable again, right? So I used a 1/0 interface, so let me write it down so that it's obvious. So I used 0/0 on this side, and I used 1/0 on this side. Okay, we'll now see how and let me configure this interface FA 1/0, and the IP address I want to set this. Remember when we have not done that yet, right? So but this is yet part of the 2.02 prefix, right? 198.168.2, that prefix, isn't it? So 2.1 is the IP address of this Linksys router. So let's configure this 2.2, the router here for the wired network, so this interface. So I'm going to set the IP address to 192.168.2.2, right? And I'm going to turn it on. Alright. So this router, so if any packet has to go out of this network, say to here, through this router, the Linksys router should know that the gateway, what's the gateway to send out of this network, right? So it needs to be set up with this IP address that we just gave, 2.2. So for that, what we'll do is go to the Linksys router, select config, and click on internet, right? We want to go out through this interface because the other one is the LAN, which is 2.1 setting, and then this wireless is what we configured before. So this is the only interface we can use, that's through this thing, right? So we'll use static, and we'll just set the default gateway to 2.2, nothing else. We'll just set the default gateway to 2.2, and that should pretty much do. So let's test it out. Let's try to connect to 1.102. So we're connecting from 3.10 to 1.02. Okay, So it may not work right away because of lack of the knowledge of the MAC addresses, but it will eventually work out after some few timeouts. We'll see. It should work. Yes, it works. So now it will work from the first request packet itself. Good. So you can even ping to this host 101. It may not work right away, but it will work eventually. Okay, so eventually it works. So let's try to now ping from here to say 3.11. Okay, it works. Okay, good. So let's try from here to 3.10. Now if you notice this router settings, if you go out to the exit to the first execution mode, root mode, if you say show IP route, you can see the routing table. So anything that has to go to 2.0 prefix is sent out on this 1/0 interface. Anything that has to go to the 3.0 prefix is sent out on the 0/0 interface. So when we set up the IP addresses for these two interfaces, their routing table is set automatically. Alright, we don't need anything more than this for this kind of scenario. Alright, so let me stop with this.